all vaccinated up here, and that's very important. And I think the vaccination is very important as we deal in the light of the world of COVID. So I would say a pitch again for those that have any reservations, get vaccinated for the safety and well-being of all the people around you. I am here as a state senator with some past background as the former co-chair of housing and past ranking member of housing, but also as an individual that have personally benefited as a first-generation immigrant that came into this country and had the incredible good fortune with this country's affordable housing and federal housing services. So to be where I am, the opportunity and the availability and the support of housing services, regardless of your income, regardless of your situation, is a human rights element, and it's critically endeared to me. We have behind me advocates here that will talk about how this COVID pandemic has impacted our housing marketplace, and particularly those that are economically distressed or having difficulty or have the myriad of challenges in regards to meeting their housing needs. What I want to start by introducing is, come on in, Helen, right on cue. I want to introduce to you Carla Miklos, who is the executive director of Operation Hope, in which we're standing in front of the headquarters, who has since 1986 provided homeless services, food pantries for those that are hungry in the broader Ridgeport-Fairfield community. I also have Helen McClendon, who just came. Hi, Helen, who is the executive director of Homes with Hope. That started in 1984 with the same mission. I wanted to bring both of them in front of you to talk about the current housing crisis and the need in the community, but also with the federal Supreme Court's decision overturning the extension of the eviction moratorium that was extended by the CDC and the federal government. This is going to create an unimaginable spike in need in eviction, and I do not believe we're prepared for it. I'm going to have Carla and Helen, who is on the ground supporting and helping those people in need, to be able to offer what their circumstances are and what needs they anticipate. So Carla and Helen, come on in, introduce the important things that you'd all do, but also share with them the unique challenges that you're going to be experiencing.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. So I'm Carla Miklos, and I'm the executive director of Operation Hope. Operation Hope, similar to Homes with Hope, has been fighting to prevent and end homelessness and support people in need for many decades. It's a privilege to be able to do it, and we're on the forefront of a lot of things related to the fallout of the pandemic and its relationship to housing and in general economic security. And I just want to share with you a couple of statistics that I think are really important for you to understand if you haven't heard them already. The U.S. Census Bureau recently did a survey and found out that in Connecticut, over 45,000 households are behind in their rent. And 160,000 Connecticut households have stated that they don't know how they're going to pay next month's rent. This is on top of the 300% increase in filed evictions that we've been experiencing during the pandemic. So our concern is that there are a lot of people in need and that the supports may or may not be there to help. Now, in Fairfield, we've been lucky enough to receive some money through the CDBG funding and hope to receive some money through ARPA that will help us with some homeless prevention. And of course, Dawn Parker will talk about Unite CT, which is a huge opportunity to sort of stem the tide of evictions and hopefully save some homes for people. However, it's an unprecedented amount of people that are going to be in need, and we just don't know for sure how we'll all address it. In Fairfield County, we're one coordinated access network from Stratford to Greenwich. We work together to set policies, create programs, and share our resources, and we're doing the best we can. But we're really just at the precipice of something that we just are not even sure we have a grasp on. Other thing I wanted to mention is just that, we can talk a lot about prevention, we can talk a lot about shoring up people in the homes that they're in, but the reality is And as my friend Carol Martin from the Fairfield and Westport Housing Authority would say, it's also a supply problem. Without a good, solid supply of affordable housing, where are people supposed to go? And in many cases, many of these evictions that have been filed, landlords are aware that prices have gone up, up, up during COVID because people have been moving into our communities and rents have been going doubling and tripling. So they may not be interested in saving these tenants, these people who count on these homes for their stabilization for their lives, just to move forward. So supply is a critical, important issue. We should never take off the table the need for affordable housing. And so I'm going to step aside and let Helen speak, but I just want you to know that we are here fighting this fight every day, looking at people in need, and we're asking for, a creative solution, support, and we're very hopeful that we can do our part. However, we're not really sure just how big this problem might be. Helen.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Carla. I'm delighted to be here to speak. I'll just wait a second to.
We're sounding the alarm.
Yeah, very appropriate. It's an alarm call here. So today, I'm Helen McAlinden. I'm the President and CEO of Homes with Hope in Westport. But today I speak on behalf of a system. I speak to you on behalf of the homeless providers throughout Fairfield County, where I am the co-chair of the homeless advocacy group of Opening Doors Fairfield County. Through a collective impact, Opening Doors Fairfield County coordinates the strategies of prevention, housing, employment, advocacy and services to ensure that episodes of homelessness are rare, brief and non-recurring, and all citizens within our region have access to safe, affordable housing. We are in a housing crisis. It's really bad. And I'm glad to be here to rally today with such a great group of people. I'm glad to see so much press and so many people interested in this cause. Daily, we see and hear from both providers and shelter guests in our homeless shelters about the need for affordable housing. Even with 3 minimum wage jobs, our shelter guests can't find a place as housing in Fairfield County is too expensive. And this is all connected. Even though we're here on talking about the moratorium, it's still all connected. And just like Carla mentioned, our friend Carl from the Housing Authority back here, she advocates daily for supportive housing and the need for bricks and mortar, and that need is very real. We are deeply disappointed by the Supreme Court's ruling on the CDC's eviction moratorium. With this decision, the courts has put over 45,000 Connecticut households at risk of losing their homes, just like Carla mentioned. Even as the Delta variant heightens, this is not good. We need to be really focusing on working together to keep our residents safe and to keep everybody housed. Many of those Connecticut households are among the most vulnerable, including senior citizens, people with chronic illnesses, young children and families, all with low incomes, and majority with very low incomes. This is not right in a rich state like Connecticut. We need to take action, and I'm glad Fairfield is putting the houses crisis up front with this priority today, like other towns in Connecticut, but Fairfield has always been a leader in supporting the housing crisis and making sure that there's affordable housing and looking at what's needed in our community. So thank you for taking that today as a focus as well. I pledge that our government will continue to use every tool at our disposal to protect our most vulnerable, whose health and well-being are in jeopardy. We call on the state and local municipalities to take action, like you are doing today, to safeguard the most vulnerable residents. These actions should include permitting evictions for non-payment of rent only after landlords and tenants have sought emergency rental assistance funds. And I know Dawn Parker from the Department of Housing, who are taking the lead in many of these items, is here today to speak to you about the efforts of the Department of Housing. We call on every landlord and housing owner and every partner that receives our support to do all they can to help protect the people of our communities. But without more affordable housing, we will never get to the end of this crisis. This is a moment in time when the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan funding, which we're all hearing about, um, which is coming into our state in local towns like Fairfield and all other towns and throughout the state. We need to set aside money and really put a priority on this money to have money set aside so that we can have more housing. Please, as you hear about ARPA funding and any other funding, support this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I wanted to acknowledge both of these organizations for their incredible work, and thank you, Helen and Carla. And if you get a chance, go check out their website. It's operationhopect.org, and then it's hwct.org. They do great work, and for those that are in need, they also provide tremendous support and resources. Thank you, Helen and Carla. We've been talking about the demand side. It's evident, but sometimes we don't fully give accountability and consideration to the supply side. And our landlords in our broader community represent a broad segment of challenges and needs. But at the same time, they're also small, individual, family-owned business units that are struggling with no rental income. So what I wanted to be able to do is bring the Connecticut Property Owners Association and John Souza, who's a volunteer president, and Rick Bush, who is a board member, to be able to talk about their focus as we move forward in regards to working with the Department of Housing and the Unite CT program, and working and meeting the needs and the challenges of finding supply for those that are critically in need. So I'm very grateful for both of you for coming in, but also to be able to kind of reiterate that your landlords are all in this together, and that you are very eager to collaborate and find solutions, because that's where we're at right now. I know the challenges articulated by Carla and Helen, and also advocated by Carol Martin here, is on the demand side. But I want to address the supply side. And so, John and Rick, please feel free to offer your viewpoints. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide the landlord or the supplier side of this equation. I think it's extremely important that the public knows that landlords do not want to evict. It is not the first thing that landlords try to do. The landlord-tenant relationship is a really sacred relationship. It's a family in a in certain situations. It's almost like a marriage where you really want to work things out. You're not looking to displace people. You're looking to solve the problem of the inability to pay rent. And the Unite CT program is probably the single most effective program that landlords have seen in a very, very long time to help to maintain the landlord-tenant relationship. You know, both of the speakers previously mentioned affordable housing. And as landlords, we want to be able to provide affordable housing for our tenants. We want them to have clean, safe housing that they can pay their rent on a monthly basis. So we work hard all the time to make sure that their apartments or houses are safe and clean, and that we're providing a service that is acceptable for the public and the private sector. So it's extremely important. Just one last comment. In an eviction, the landlord is the victim. And I know that seems like a counterintuitive statement, but private owners, especially small landlords, are using their life savings, their retirement savings. They're making an investment into a two-family home or a three-family home, and they don't want people who can't pay rent. They don't want to evict, and it's important to understand that this relationship and the Unite CT program providing funding is a major solution to this problem.
Thanks, Rick. John Souza, Connecticut Coalition of Property Owners. We're the small mom and pop businesses around the state that provide a lot of the housing. For many years, landlords have played by the rules. We provided this housing for people. They paid the rent, and yes, this pandemic threw a monkey wrench into it for a long time. We understood that. We didn't need the government to tell us to work with our good tenants. We were doing that already. The Unite CT program had a slow start. I think all of us know that here. Dawn, Parker, and the team over there, Mike, they worked really hard to streamline it, to make it a better program. I think it's firing on all cylinders now. Anybody that needs help, that's really suffering, is going to get the help. You can't go to the housing court without a Unite CT number. You have to have that as part of the start of an eviction. Just because you go to the court system doesn't mean you're automatically evicted. There's money to make agreements to help people stay in their place. That's what we want. The landlords don't, like Rick said, we don't want to put people out. That's our last resort. But at a certain point, we have bills to pay too. Something's got to happen. There are some people, unfortunately, a small amount that are, gaming the system. They need to have their day in court like everybody else, and that's all we've ever asked for, to be treated fairly. We're willing to work with the program. Any landlord that's out there listening now and has considered not dealing with it, it's much improved. A lot of the things you may have heard will not be correct. It's a lot less paperwork. If you have to help your tenant or they need help, there is available. Just look on the website. There's sites where they can go and get help. It's worked well so far, and it's getting better as they go. So again, we want to be part of the solution to the problem. We are part of the solution for the long term too. Housing in Connecticut is not an easy thing, right? The barriers to entry are hard. It's a high business tax state. It's a high business regulation state. So if we all work together, I think we can have a promising future for housing in Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank
you,
you.
Rick.
Thanks.
I really appreciate you making the effort to come down, but also kind of reiterating that that you are looking forward to working with our Department of Housing and our housing authorities and advocacies to find solutions, but also an opportunity for you to share that a lot of your members are small business owners in our community that are struggling at the same time with regards to the economic challenges, but their bills don't stop either. So I appreciate being able to have both sides, but also it comes to the most important part. The Department of Housing, I want to commend the commissioner for her efforts and her incredible challenge and her staff, and also for Ms. Parker for coming down, because you're the person of the hour in regards to what Unite CT is about, and it is a direct result of the emergency powers that were granted to the governor to address the housing and rental eviction moratorium. So without further ado, Dawn, talk about the program, talk about the challenges you had from the onset, but what about the improvements? I'm really encouraged in my meeting just about a week and a half ago with the commissioner and your staff in talking about the redoubling of effort to address the critical need, and you're fully aware of the challenges you have. So we're here to support you, but at the same time, we want to let the people out there in need know what services are available with Department of Housing and Unite CT. So we have Dawn Parker.
Wonderful.
Please.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being out here in the nice sunshine.
We're melting up here.
We're melting, but that shade tree looks really good. So Unite CT, actually, this is the recovery money from the Treasury. There's two buckets of money that come to Connecticut, and the first one has about $212 million for rental assistance and electricity arrearages. So that's what we're working with right now. In the future, there's another $187 million that will be coming to Connecticut, and it's expected to last through 2025. So when we talk about the spending of the program, we talk about today, but we also talk about the housing stability of our renters. And so we need to make sure if those households need more money to get back on their feet, we can help them with up to $15,000 or 12 months of rental support. So we need to be thinking not only about immediate, but this long-term effects of stabilizing our housing. We really do work very hard to build strong partnerships, and the landlords, they are our partners just as much as the legal services, as much as the mediators, Judicial's been amazing with us. Our governor is amazing and has worked so that, like people have said, if there's a landlord going in for a notice to quit and he or she wants to evict, they need to have a Unite CT case number on their file. And the reason for that is because if someone does not know that this funding is available, we want to ensure that if it's a financial situation, we're able to respond and help that household stabilize their relationship with their landlord. So we're working really hard. We have a specialized team that works with larger landlords to help the processing, the communications. Any landlord who thinks that they'll have more than 20 applications, we target them so that they have the same case review team, so that communication is the best it can be, and so that it moves faster if we're looking at the information for 20 applications versus one at a time. So that's something that we've done to improve the speed with larger landlords. In addition, the department really has been innovative with, there was $1 million that was set aside to work with Connecticut Legal. And that bridged that time to get to the right to counsel. So in Connecticut, we have a right to counsel, and there's $20 million that's been dedicated to that effort so that tenants know their rights, so that we can all work together. You've heard it time and time again. It's really important everyone's doing their part. They're coming together, and they're working hard to have a lasting solution to this problem. This is a tenant-based program, and so we want to make sure that the tenants, with the money that's used for them, they're stable in their housing. So if there's relationships that are fractured, we have specialized eviction prevention team members that work through the entire process of Unite CT and offer additional connections to services in the community. We have job placement, financial literacy, partnerships with Quinnipiac University on mediation. We have the court systems. We have the Connecticut Legal Aid partners. So we're really talking, wrapping around the households that need us the most. In addition, if there are households that are immigrants and they would have a barrier to working with Unite CT, we have a partnership with Surrey, who's the Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants. And Surrey will help those households as well when they need support. So it's a really very vast, everyone's on board. I did look up today the numbers of what we're talking about so far. We've paid out $69 million in Connecticut. That was as of Friday afternoon at 4, so we'll have more. We get out $1 million to $1.5 million every day. We reached our goal is to help 1,000 households a week. Last week we had 963 households that were served in a week. And I think it's really important to share, and I shared this with Treasury last week, the first 3 months, the entire country was lifting this off. Now that we have 3 months of operation, you can see the impact and how it's moving along very quickly. So it's exciting
if I may,
also.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just if you could share with the broader public the resources you have, the call center, which
Yes,
you've
thank you.
redoubled with staffing and language support, your mobile truck to get out to communities, but also the increased efficiency and streamlining of your website, which is unitect.ct.gov.
You have a good memory.
This
Good
is very
memory
dear,
over
but
here.
can you talk a little bit more about the efforts
Yes.
for the people that are listening that may now, because of the eviction moratorium, be impacted and have to know that they have resources out there and what the
Yes.
DOH is working on, if I may interrupt.
Yes. Thank you for doing that. We do have 16 Unite CT resource centers throughout the state of Connecticut. So those are the local hubs. They're basically the nucleus of all municipalities, social service agencies, everyone advocating for housing. And so they are able to train and help and support people create successful applications. In addition, we have the Unite CT bus. It's a mobile technology bus that we travel around every weekday and every other Saturday as well. And we bring the technology to areas that might be underserved. And so it's basically a big hotspot on wheels. We have iPads outside, and we also teach people, if they have a smartphone, how to use the app so that they can do it themselves for follow-up and things like that. So that's been very successful. Our call center is with Workplace, which is in Bridgeport. We actually, we decided to keep as much money in Connecticut as we can for the operations. And so Workplace has hired 29 people as the call center operators. We've upgraded our website so that there's a live chat feature that's backed by Workplace staff. And we're also bringing on 10 more pre-screeners in the Workplace to help with the beginning parts. Because what takes so long is incomplete applications. And so we have to have the tenant and the landlord working together to complete it so that the underwriting team can review it and approve it. So we are trying all different ways to try to think about how to create efficiencies. We use the qualified census tract for income. We've dropped, like, the landlord documentation has been reduced. As much as we can, we're always constantly looking to improve and make this a better experience for everyone.
Well, I appreciate your efforts, the commissioner's efforts. We have redoubled up. Despite whatever challenges we have, it was a learning curve, but I think we are better prepared than other states in this arena because of our learning curve that we experienced. Despite all of our best efforts, the challenges that may occur, collaboration with landlords, housing authorities, and also Department of Housing through its programs, sometimes evictions happen. And there are challenges on a legal front for many of those that may not have the resources. So we have Rafi Podolsky, who has been a long-standing housing advocate, but also a champion of legal services for those that are unable to afford it. So I wanted to invite Rafi to share with the broader population, for those individuals that are to a stage where they need legal services, and also to explain a little bit more Connecticut Legal Services. They have, I believe, 6 full-time service centers throughout the state, 2 in Fairfield County, in Bridgeport, and in Stamford. But I'd like to have Rafi come down and acknowledge his remarkable career service. I'm a huge fan. But also talk about individuals that are in the process of eviction and what resources and legal support that are out there for them. Rafi, you're the only one that's not sweating.
I know.
Why is that?
I should be.
Rafi Podolsky.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, Rafi.
Thank you. My name is Rafael Podolsky. I'm a lawyer with Connecticut Legal Services. I'm the housing policy advocate for the legal aid programs. Senator Hwang is correct. Connecticut Legal Services has 6 offices. There are 2 other related programs, one in New Haven, which has 1 office, and one in Hartford that has another office. So there are 8 altogether. We work for application purposes through an entity called Statewide Legal Services, which is essentially a phone emergency line. And for purposes of the program that we're talking about here, that is actually the entity through which they would go through for legal help. But I want to say something first about the program as a whole, though. And I agree with a lot of what's been said by others, that the best solution, we're in a situation where we have funding at the federal level, which is now in Connecticut, around $400 million, as Don Parker said, to help both landlords and tenants. The idea is to get that money into the hand of landlords, so while it's for the benefit of tenants, it is also for the benefit of landlords. It serves the function of helping pay arrearage, or in some cases helping people move forward in terms of being able to pay rent. So that's a program that's incredibly important. Roughly 15% of that money has so far been committed, in my understanding, and it's meant to be a program that continues. It's not...
Sorry, Raph.
No,
Listen.
you got a better number.
Yeah.
Well, I was adding the 2 numbers together. We have two tranches of money. We've got around
Oh.
212 million.
We
plus
only
an-
have to talk about the first one first. when we're
Because
talking
the
federal.
other bucket goes to 2025 for stability.
Okay.
See, I've been listening.
Okay, good job.
Okay. However it is framed, we're not at a position where the money has been exhausted, and so the result is it is possible for people at all levels to get help. We have been involved in a lot at the eviction end of that process, and one of the things we've seen is the importance of there being enough money available so that people who may have fallen very far behind in the eviction process can still be helped. And I think that's a fair statement to say that they can. It's also important that landlords and tenants work together, and the entire system works best when landlords and tenants are able to speak to each other, to work together on this. The earlier in the process that applications can be made to Unite Connecticut, the easier it is to resolve those kinds of issues, because the indebtedness will tend to be a little bit smaller, and the willingness of the parties to cooperate with each other will tend to be greater. So certainly from our end, we encourage those kind of workouts early rather than later. One of the statistics that has shown up in recent studies is that once cases get to the eviction stage, then roughly speaking, about 80% of landlords have lawyers, and roughly 6% of tenants have lawyers. So that you end up in a situation where the tenant is unrepresented and is pretty much on their own. There are now programs that are in the process of getting off the ground at various stages to make it possible for tenants to obtain legal help, or at the very least legal advice in terms of how they can be protected during the eviction process. And a lot of that may be connecting people to Unite CT. So we are very appreciative of that aspect of the process. As Senator Hwang said, there are 2 offices in the Fairfield County area, that's Stamford and Bridgeport. Those offices are not open to the general public. There are procedures one would follow to get into those offices, and that's because of the pandemic, that those offices are not generally open for people to walk into.
But their website is ctlegal.org.
That's right.
And for those that want to make the initial foray and get the questions asked, there's resources, so it's ctlegal.org. Okay.
And there is also access to the, I guess I actually don't have that web address with me, but Statewide Legal Services, which is the entity that can also receive applications, can do that. The one other thing that I want to add is that one piece that's been important about the program and that is relatively new has been this kind of formal link-up between the eviction process and Unite CT. And that's something that came out that really began officially as of July 1st with the governor's executive order. It seems to me that it's really important that as long as we have a funded Unite CT program, we want to make sure that link-up is not lost. And that may be something that the legislature has to address.
I was noticing why you were looking at me.
Well, I was just taking a look in that general direction, because that becomes an important route for both landlords and tenants to get into the process. There are a lot of people who don't know about it. There's a lot of misunderstanding about how it works. But in the end, it is a benefit for both landlords and tenants, and it's important to do that, and it certainly promotes residential stability. So thanks.
Well, Rafi, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your remarkable career of providing supportive legal services. We can take questions, Christine.
This is explain. This is a race against the clock right now. You know, we've got the governor's executive powers expiring on September 30th. We've got a deadline for Unite CT to spend 65% of the funding that is received from the federal government. People aren't necessarily out on the street because of the U.S. Supreme Court decision today, but it's going to take time. So tell me.
We are racing the clock, and there is an incredible sense of urgency for all of the members here in the community. You have my commitment that with everybody working together, and for us as a legislature to represent and acknowledge that we've got to get back in there and formalize this process and continue to fund this. So you can count me in as a supporter of us going back into a special session to address this funding need, because it is going to be critical and continual. And my interest in this is we have an opportunity to avert the compelling and difficult stories of eviction and just unsettlement. You know, as I said in the beginning, as an individual growing up as a child, and the stability and the structure and the safety of having a roof over my home and a family stability, it cannot be understated. So the unsettlement needs to be avoided. It is important for us as legislators, with landlords, with housing advocates, with the Department of Housing, to be able to formulate a plan to keep people in their homes and to work out so that all parties can work together. So yes, there is a sense of urgency, and Dawn has something she wants to add.
Yeah,
you're going to have all the answers.
Well, no, not all, but we definitely bring together a lot of parties to continuously look at this. And so with the eviction part of this, which is urgent, We know that the evictions, the number of evictions have increased, but so we have an entire team that works, like 45 people dedicated to working with the eviction component. And we have open relationships with all of the parties. I thought it might be interesting for people to know we paid about $14 million out to eviction cases to prevent just about 1,500 households from being in eviction. In the last month, the number has increased. So we had 470 applicants in July, and we have 890 in August. So it's true. It's coming, like people are responding though. So we can't help them unless they come forward too. So we want people to come and apply and work through it. And with the governor's executive order, it allows for those conversations to happen over a 30-day period. People can negotiate if they need to, and then we can solve that problem.
Dawn, I'm sorry.
So we actually, Treasury is coming to Connecticut to talk more about this. Connecticut's doing a really good job right now. They look at the committed dollars. So while we have about 70 million that's paid out, we have another 40 million that's committed in the process of payment. And if you look at our website and you look at the dashboard, you can see like how that money is flowing every day. So we're actually doing really well in Connecticut. Yeah, we're already over 50. We're like at 58 right now. And we get out more than 1 million or 1.5 million a day.
That's a new number, right?
It is. It's like really the last 3 months is what people need to look at when they think about this, honestly.
That's important.
So, okay, thank you for asking. About 8,900 tenants have been helped, and 3,600 landlords have been helped.
They have done a good job, DOH. We need to continue to do a better job. I will share my concern of the incredible spike that will occur in my mind. One, because of the moratorium being overturned. But number two, that our federal supplemental unemployment of weekly paychecks and self-employed unemployment will now stop on September 4th of 2021. What has been a steady revenue stream will now stop. And now with the challenge of the Delta variant and the rise, our businesses are again retrenching and refocused and possibly reevaluating. So the opportunity to be able to seek employment and get jobs with that perfect storm, the supplemental income ending from the federal government, the moratorium ending, and the uncertainty of the job marketplace for people to earn income is truly a perfect storm for the challenges that we may be encountering. So this today is a call to action, but also to raise awareness for all the challenges people standing behind me are undertaking, but also for the community in general that may not be aware that they are possibly being served with eviction and may be a surprise, maybe not. But nevertheless, we are in for a unique challenge. And I wanted to be able to share with the resources that we have and the efforts that are underway from all the parties here. And if I may, just an extra pitch for Homes with Hope and Operation Hope. Not only do they do a great job in addressing homelessness, but they do incredible counseling work and supportive services. They both have food pantries that are in dire need because of credible challenges. This is not a milk crate kind of a scenario of the recent trend. This is a milk crate reflection of food and donations that are necessary to help the community. So if I may do a public service, it is get vaccinated, believe in the science of vaccines, but also to support our great nonprofits, Operation Hope, and also Homes with Hope. So any other additional questions?
Yeah, can I ask
Yep.
Mr. Souza, tell me about the Supreme Court decision ending the moratorium. What was your reaction to that?
Well, as a business owner, obviously I was happy. I understand that there's people that are in need, and thank God we have Unite CT program firing at full cylinders all the way, going fast. Small business people, the salt of the earth, they're just trying to make a living like everybody else. They have bills to pay. If people are really struggling, there's help for them. If they're taking advantage of the system, which, believe it or not, does happen occasionally, then they have to get their day in court and hopefully resolve the process peacefully. There's no other way to do it. The system works efficiently. It's how you keep costs low for housing. That's one of the ways that you keep housing affordable. It's got to be a balanced system that works for everybody.
And why should everybody care about this issue, even if they're not a tenant or a landlord?
Sure. Everybody thinks that housing just materializes from nowhere. It doesn't. It's a lot of work for everybody, right? And if you want housing for your kids who are coming out of college, you want housing for elderly people that don't have a lot of income, it has to be a system that works. It has to be an efficient system for everybody. Connecticut has very high barriers for building housing. Connecticut has high barriers for doing business in general. So the less we can add to it, the better. If we can make the housing court an efficient system, if we can make the United CT to helping people an efficient system, that's better for everybody in the long run.
So, I mean, there would be less housing available. As a landlord, why are you going to open your place up to give housing if you're not going to give it?
Correct. So it's very scary to be a landlord sometimes. A lot of these people, these small business people, this is their income. If they have a tenant that can't pay, it comes directly out of their pocket. They don't get a paycheck that week. It can be very scary. So they get very picky of who they rent to when times are like this. They've suffered a lot during this pandemic, along with the tenants as well. But a lot of landlords have really had a kick in the stomach. It's been tough. Some of them are losing their home that we know. Many of them.
So when the courts are closed, there's no way for a landlord-tenant situation to be adjudicated. The landlords are going to become more protective of their personal investment, and they're going to increase the cost of housing. They're going to increase the barrier to entry by asking for larger security deposits up to 2-month maximum, and they're going to look more closely at rental applications to make sure that there's significant employment verification, to make sure that there's funds available. So the harder it is for a landlord to run his business, the more difficult he's going to make it for the tenant to be able to actually get into the housing.
Yeah, they have no choice. Because it can be a little scary being a landlord sometimes.
Yeah. So this is important for kids coming out of college, for seniors, for people of low income. This is extremely important for our community.
We're happy to work with anybody that wants to improve housing. We've actually worked with Senator Hwang before, and we think we've got some great stuff going in Connecticut. If we can keep it up, we're happy to be part of the solutions. Thank you.
I think it's an incredible point that we have to note that despite the challenges I've said earlier about supplemental income, the employment marketplace, the moratorium ending, but what you just shared are business examples of reduced supply. And it's just a practical application of experience and challenges you have. So you've got an incredible challenge of reduced supply with increased needs. And I'm looking at Carla and Helen, and where do people go? They will have to go to shelters. And shelters is definitely no place for families, for individuals that are potentially autoimmune. So it's not only a housing crisis, it potentially becomes a public health challenge and crisis as well. So I want to that's why we're here at Operation Hope, to acknowledge the great work and all the staff members of Homes with Hope and Operation Hope. They're wonderful people doing God's work. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for withstanding the heat and listening to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here.